Everybody, I made a short video that ended up getting cut off and being too short the other day about a pet peeve of mine and attaching records in Family Search. So I'm going to show it with just one person and how to do it correctly. So I'm looking at someone I've researched a bit over time, and you can see that next to his blue face and his name there is a blue circle with a white rectangle in it, and that is an indicator that there's a record there for him. So we're going to look at it and attach it correctly. So I'm tapping on that, and here we are in Family Search. It's a Billion Graves index. Tapping on the down arrow to look at it. Okay, good to know. So now I'm going to compare. This is a correct record for him because I did check. And here's what you've got. Now, know that there are frequently differences between what says on a headstone and the actual birth date or even death date of a person. There are a lot of reasons why that can be gotten wrong by the people who did the engraving or by the group sourcing on either Billion Graves or on Find a Grave. Basically, the further you get from birth, the less accurate a record is apt to be about the birth date of a person. The best record that you have for a person's birth is a birth index or a birth certificate. And if you use a military record for a man, men usually knew their birthdays and said the correct day and month, but they might fudge on the year, either to make themselves old enough to serve or young enough to serve. And so they could fudge a year or two. And so that might well be what Adolf did here, but I don't believe Billion Graves when it says that the birth date is 1896. I do believe, because there are a lot of other resources and sources that are attached to this particular profile, that 1897 is correct. So I'm not changing that. I do see that the death date is the same. The main thing we're putting in here is where he was buried, which is at Nayland Cemetery in Liberty County, Texas. So the main thing is that if you look at the very bottom, you see that it says no match or yes attach. We are going to attach it, but we're not just going to attach it. First, we're going to add over the information from the left column to the right. We need that information. That's the whole point of attaching this record. So I'm hitting add, and then I'm going to attach, yes attach. Now the problem is that people attach records without adding over the information. So someone else might come to this, see that this record needs to be attached to him, not add over the burial information by tapping that little green arrow, and then just attach the record. And that means that in the narrative of his life and the locations for his birth and his marriage and where he lived and his death and his burial, it might be incomplete. And that is not proper form. So that's what I'm on about. If you find that somebody has a record attached to them, but that information wasn't shared over, you can go to the bottom left here where it says detach in blue. Detach the record, although I would say come up to the top and make note of the alphanumeric identification code for this individual person. It's right after the birth and death dates underneath the name. In this case, it's GM97-KHF. And make a note of that real quick, because sometimes if you detach a record, the person will disappear because they're maybe not in a family relationship with the rest of the people in the census that you're adding and you lose them, or some other reason, I don't know. It might just, the person might disappear, and you don't want that. You want to be sure that you are going to reattach the record to the same person. You're just going to be doing the additional work of adding the information over from left column to right column. So that's it. I'm hitting done. He's all good. And if you'll see, the only record for him underneath here, the only narrative for him is that he lived in 1910 in a police jury ward 5 in Calcasieu, Louisiana. Well, he was born in 1897, so he should be in the 1900 census. He should be in the 1910. He should also be in the 1920. And so where is that? So let's look at his sources. And again, we're in Family Search. We're going to tap on sources. These records show, and this is important, that we haven't been able to find him in census records so far well, first off, the top one and the Billion Graves Index, those both have a little tree next to them. That's the logo for Family Search. So those records came from Family Search. Below that, these are all items that I crossed over from Ancestry to Family Search, and that is indicated with a little planet, a little world. So I've got I've got two newspapers.com items, and then I've got the Texas Death Index. I've got his World War I registration. I've got 2 death certificates, and then I've got the 1910 census. And for some reason, I wasn't able to find this stuff yet for him, and it hasn't popped as a hint on Family Search. I don't know why we can't find him in the 1900 census and why it doesn't show up. I can look at his parents and find out. Mom and Dad were both alive until after he was. I believe that Adolf was the one who was killed in a knife fight. I can't remember, but I think so. So let's look at his dad real quick and see if there is a 1900 or... See, here's a 1940. He wouldn't be alive. Yeah, I don't see in either the resources I crossed over from Ancestry. Oh, okay, the resources crossed over from Ancestry show 1920 and a 1930. So if I wanted to, and I do want to, so I'm going to, I'm just not going to do it in this video, I can go and I can search and add those records correctly. The place that I would go to do that, by the way, is up here in the triple dots in the upper right. If I tap on that once and I say search records and then Family Search, I can actually choose the records collection that I want for this. We can look for the 1900 census, go to collections, and let's go to the 1900 census and just tap on it, see what it pulls up. There's nothing there. I don't see it. So same deal. You could look at the 1920 because we know the 1920 existed. But for some reason, it's not showing up. Isn't that weird? So we get the 1880, the 1905 New York State, which is not right for him. It's a Louisiana family. The 1900, the 1910, and the 1940. And that's it. I don't know why those don't pull up, but this is one of the reasons why when I say don't do your research on Family Search, do your research on Ancestry, I really mean it. Because again, if you look at the sources, look at all these lovely sources that are available that I brought up from Ancestry and crossed over to Family Search using my Magical Mormon powers. See, I've got his 1910, 1920, 1930. So, not really sure why that's a problem. The only other thing that I could do here in order to enhance everyone's experience with this particular profile is I can add the date. All of these things say add date. Well, let's go to the 1880 census. All I have to do is just add 1880, tap, and then save. And now it's going to put it in correct chronological order with all of these items above. See, 1880, 1910. So I can do that for all of the items that have a date attached to them. For instance, the death certificates I'd have to look at to see what the date of issuance is, but this is 1920, that's easy enough. I can just type in 1920, save it, add it. Now it's going to go to the correct chronological order. Same thing with the 1930. It'll go in correct chronological order, and the 1910. Everything else, I'd have to look at that specific record, see what date was represented in it, and that means going back and looking in Ancestry, because all of these Ancestry records show, as you can see, a hot link to the Ancestry collections, and I would have to go back to look at that. It won't show up as a record. I won't be able to view the record itself in Family Search because that's not where it's living. It's living in Ancestry. So that's a thing. If you're going to add records in Family Search, please do it correctly. And that's very important. And there's only one other piece of, oh, today's the anniversary of his death. Huh. Okay. There's only one other thing I can do in terms of high genealogy, the burial. I don't have a date, but I can correct the format of you can see the format of the place of burial. You see that there's like a little location indicator thing, which is like an upside down teardrop, and it says Liberty Cemetery, Liberty, Liberty, Texas, United States. Well, if you look at this, what's entered and what came over from the record that I added from Find a Grave, it says Liberty City Cemetery, Liberty, Liberty, Texas, United States of America. And the way to correct that format from the Find a Grave format into the the family search format is to simply tap on it once. I tap on it and it brings up what's there is in blue, and what is correct has the little upside down teardrop next to it. So I can tap on that and bam, look at that, it corrects it. Just like nothing. So easy. Save it. So he's good to go. His formatting is now perfectly good. So that's what I wanted you to see, and I'm sure I'll find other things to rant and rave about. Have a good day.